So as I said before, we're working on blending in color to the big stuff, and then we're working our way down to the little stuff. Something on my paper there. So I'm gonna get my brush ready. One of the next biggest things would be the stem of the mushroom house. I think there, I want it to look kind of white, but since it's something growing outside, it wouldn't be the cleanest version of white. So I'm gonna put a little brown on here under the roof line and on one side. And then I'm just gonna blend that in and fade that away. Maybe since he was such a grumpy gnome, maybe somebody's inside there and he knocked on the door and they're not answering it because they know it's the rude guy. So if I put some yellow there, that kind of seems like the lights are on. And then I think I'm gonna go for darker brown for the door. So I loaded more paint on there. We know from experience, more paint makes it darker, more water is gonna make it lighter. Not gonna worry about the lines on the door because if I tried to paint that with black or something to make them show up better, that's just gonna bleed into the brown right now because the paint's so wet. So later I'll work on top of that. I'm gonna go into the bushes with some more green here. Going a little darker. That one's closer, so I'd probably see it more clearly, so I'm putting more color on it. Do the same thing over here. But I want the gnome, I don't want to hide him in the bush, so I'm going to make sure I go around it. Plus, I'm going to do that blending effect where it gets lighter as I come down. So that's going to kind of frame him a little bit with those lighter colors. Okay, then I'll go into the actual gnome. Now this is where I'm doing smaller stuff, so what I really need to think about is more control over my brush. So let's say I'm gonna paint his hat red. So I'm gonna rinse out my brush, run it over the edge there, get rid of that extra water, but keep some in there. Maybe even do it a third time because that's a pretty small shape. So I'm gonna get some red on my brush and I'm just gonna use the tip. I'm not gonna press down too much. So I'm gonna go along this back edge and sort of pull it down, fading it away. Maybe his pants are red today too, okay? In the original illustration, they were black. You saw I almost dipped my brush in that black because I was thinking about that. So then I'm gonna fill this in. So if you notice, I have a lot more control over the paint. It doesn't seem like it's going in different places because instead of wiping it off 2 times, I did it 3 times. And I'm gonna do the same thing for his shirt and everything that he's wearing. I think that's gonna be blue. So I'm gonna fill this in. And when I do that, I notice it's kind of covering up some of the lines where I can see his arms crisscrossed and stuff. Well, later when I go back in, because we said this is the underpainting, okay? We're gonna let this dry and we're gonna go on top of it with some other colors and things and some other tools. So I'm just sort of filling this in for today. I'll let it dry and then I'll go back on top of it. I'll make those lines show up better, okay? So you're just adding a light layer of color, and then in our next class, the next time we work on this, we're gonna go into this. You can see a difference between the lighter colors and the darker details that I went on top of. So this is just the first layer of color. All right, guys, good luck.